Hi everyone, and welcome back to our class. I've got a picture here I'm going to put on the front of the video to show our finished product here of our kind of matted effect, loose watercolor flowers, and just building the layers to this. So this is going to be our sample that we're going to be following today, and I hope that you'll paint along with me. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another watercolor class. Today we're going to be mixing it up a little bit, where we're going to be creating kind of a border around this. So here are the edges of my paper, and so I've tried to do like a little even border, and then I've put down my tape. So I'm going to be creating a little bit of a frame background to the flowers that we're going to be doing. So I'm going to be using a little bit of my yellow ochre, a little bit of my burnt sienna, and a little bit of my ultramarine blue. Okay, so on this background, what we're going to do is, rather than wetting the whole thing, we're going to go to wet part of it. And the result is going to be where we get kind of a combination of hard and diffused edges on this background. So if I start out to put in a little background for planning where my flowers are going to go, I'm going to use this ultramarine blue, and I'm going to bring just a tiny bit of the burnt sienna here into it. Just enough to kind of give me more of a denim blue here. So here's where I'm going to kind of plop in. So I'm going to get this kind of misty background to where the real flowers are going to go when we put those in. Okay, and you can see, you can almost get spots that get a little more gray in this. And do a little wetness right there. Just kind of pop in some of that. And then, you know, you put a little bit of this yellow ochre around. If they run together, that's fine. Let's splatter a little bit of this burnt sienna. Yeah, I've got the dogs here with me. You always hear the little jingling of their collars, or somebody's playing with a toy. I'm going to splatter a little bit of this blue here. All right. And let's get a little color down here, because that way I've got like those edges of the frame are defined. So I'm going to let this dry thoroughly, and what that means, since I've put quite a bit on here, you know, you get a little bit of the rolling and buckling with the paper. I want this dry to the point that it's completely flat. So I'll be using a hair dryer on mine, and I will check back in when I'm done. Alright, so I am back, and my paper is completely dry, and that's, you know, you want it to feel nice and flat. I did come in and I added just a little bit of, I added just a tiny bit of some more of that blue splattering on top, and then still gave that time to dry. So what we're going to do here, where we've got this kind of nice mystery organic background, because watercolors are transparent, that's going to affect, you know, it's going to show through anything that we do. So the rest of this, where I've got this nice muted background, the rest of this is going to be nice and inky to override that. So I'm going to pick up my ultramarine blue here and keep that a nice, more of an inky kind of consistency. So you can see that it moves, but it's not super soupy, if that's a word or a term. But I've got nice intensity here on my color. So I'm going to build the front petals first. So let's say if I want to put in kind of this main front petal here, then if I build one here, I'm going to have that one kind of sticking out. I don't need to paint the whole thing. And I can also use a little bit of white space, unless I fill it all in there. I'll show you on this side. Let's bring that up a little higher. So if I leave a little white space there, that kind of gives that little bit of openness that makes it not all one big blob. So see, I can leave a little bit right in there too. I've got a little tiny bit right there. Let's bring just a little one popping up here. And then we'll have one coming this way. So I've got a kind of a, and I try to keep this in more of an arch, but just that would be a thing I would say is important about bringing a little bit of that white space. It leaves a little bit of resting space for the eye so it's not one big inky blob. Okay, I'm going to do that. Oh, here's what we want to do. Sorry, we're getting ahead of myself. We're going to take this tape off because like this flower here, I'm going to have it come off of the page. Okay. If your paper is still damp, it's going to be a little trickier to keep some of those little white space portions there. Okay, so if I come here, again, I'll leave just a little white space right there. Kind of build some little ones popping up behind. And then, see, that's okay if those connect, but I still got that little space right there. Piece coming right there. All right, so and then when I put my greenery in, those will kind of come around across that bottom edge. Okay, and then we're going to come and build one here. Same thing. So each time you do this, it's going to, you may be following a simple or similar pattern. Like, see, I can have those two connect. And then on this one here, let's say I'm going to leave a little more white space down in there. So I wouldn't do them all identical, but just be intentional about leaving that little bit of white space. I'm going to make, it's almost like that works as like a negative shadow, just gives that little bit of separation. Let's come here and we'll do that. Okay. So, I could come in and maybe bring a little bit of just a little bit of contrast there, so that kind of but that's, I don't really need to fuss too much with those. So on my green, I'll use my Viridian green here, and I'm going to be using with that burnt sienna. And again, I want this a more inky color, because what we lay down, we don't necessarily want to, we won't come back and keep working it and keep working it. You know, we can do some little color shifts in it, but for the most part. So again, here where these are coming and touching, so let's say if I come in and lay in some little petals. And even just having that little bit of white space there. And I'm going to do that on each of these. I'll kind of determine where these are going to go. And again, they're all going to be similar, but they don't need to be identical. So I'm going to start here because I want to say, like, since this one's kind of in the foreground, I'm going to account for where this stem is going to come down. We'll bring that on down kind of that way. And then if this is kind of like the base to that, so we'll kind of have this that kind of arch and cross that a little. And then here, this one's going to come kind of shooting down here through the middle. I maybe don't need that to come quite as far because it might be behind some little broadleaf leaves down here in the front. Right? So if I have, let's say, a big petal come here, so let's say I start this off this way, and I'm going to have that come right in there. Build it a little more intense down in here. And then let's say we have one that comes back behind this flower. So let's say it's going to start back up here. Bring that down that way. And so remember, while this is wet, you know, I can feed more color into it. And it'll have more of that tendency to kind of diffuse out there. And then I can do some little shorter pieces that will kind of connect some of this here. So I do a little soft one. If you want to, you could take, let's take a little piece of tape across here. And let's bring all of these down to here. And that's going to give us kind of this nice, kind of like a frame within a frame by taking these and cutting them off this way. So make sure they all tie together. And then we'll bring this on down. Okay, and then let's do two like shorter ones here. Put a little higher on that one. And just do very loose, still leaving that little bit of white space, but just kind of that looser, almost like implying that it's more a little grass in between there. So here, like if I need to, you know, I want to make sure I've got a clear, like which one of these is in front. Just like I left white space for the flowers, I've left almost like a little break here that's going to make that clarity of which one is behind which one. And then I probably would want to come back in with a little more of this inkier blue now and creating yet another layer in this more intense color and letting this go out onto my border here and even down into here. You just have a nice little variety of textures. And so this is kind of a cool way to give an artistic spin on your composition. Again, the flowers are a little more impressionistic, but you know, you can see what those little divisions do for it there. And so now you've got a really cute little print that if you put a mat on this and frame it, you know, it's got kind of a nice concept of how we've built the layers. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial. Check out my other ones, and I always appreciate a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, please leave a message in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you.